and welcome back to Minecraft. I'm your host, here to join you in the quiet workshop of the mind, where we learn to build a more intentional life. Today, let's talk about a feeling I'm sure you know well. It's that subtle, creeping anxiety that shows up in the most ordinary moments of our hyper-modern lives. Picture this. It's Friday night. You've finished a long week, and all you want to do is unwind. You sink into your couch, open Netflix, and a universe of possibilities explodes onto your screen. Dramas from Korea, comedies from the UK, mind-bending sci-fi, gripping documentaries. You scroll. You click on a trailer. You read a synopsis. You check the ratings. You scroll some more. 45 minutes later, the initial excitement has evaporated, replaced by a strange mix of fatigue and frustration. You either give up and go to bed, or, more likely, you default to rewatching an old episode of The Office for the 10th time, just to make the choosing stop. Or imagine you're at a restaurant like the Cheesecake Factory, staring at a menu that's thicker than some novels. Your eyes glaze over as you scan pages of appetizers, pastas, salads, steaks, and signature dishes. The Cajun jambalaya sounds good, but so does the Thai coconut lime chicken. And what about the Skinnylicious menu? Overwhelmed, you end up ordering a club sandwich, not because it's what you truly wanted, but because it was a safe harbor in a sea of overwhelming choice. Now, let's scale this up to something with higher stakes. Think about the pressure of crafting an identity. You open Instagram, and you're met with a curated feed of friends hiking majestic mountains, launching successful businesses, having picture-perfect weddings, and raising brilliant children. You feel a pressure to present your own life as equally compelling. Which photos do you post? Which caption is witty enough? Which version of yourself do you broadcast to the world? Every post becomes a choice, a performance, a small brick in the construction of a public-facing self, and the sheer number of ways you could present yourself becomes a source of quiet panic. If any of this sounds familiar, you are not alone. You are experiencing what psychologists call the paradox of choice. Today on Minecraft, we're going to do more than just diagnose this modern ailment. We are going to deconstruct it, understand its architecture, and then, most importantly, we are going to craft the mental tools you need to overcome it. We'll explore why the promise of ultimate freedom has somehow become a cage, and how the ancient philosophy of minimalism might just be the key to unlocking it. So, take a deep breath. Let's begin. The engines of infinity. To understand our present predicament, we have to appreciate how radically different our world is from the one that shaped our ancestors. For most of human history, life was defined by limits. The choices of our grandparents and their grandparents before them were framed by geography, tradition, and social class. You ate what was grown locally. You likely followed the trade of your parents. Your identity was largely inherited, not chosen. In that world, the dream of freedom was synonymous with the dream of more choice. And in the 21st century, we achieved that dream beyond anyone's wildest imagination. But this abundance is powered by specific cultural and technological engines that we need to name and understand. The first engine is the digital supermarket. The internet has placed an infinite 24/7 store at our fingertips. It's not just about products. It's about information, lifestyles, ideologies, and potential partners. Every search on Google, every scroll through Amazon, every swipe on a dating app presents us with a dizzying array of options. This digital world has no closing time and no inventory limits. It's fueled by algorithms designed to keep us engaged by constantly showing us something new, something tailored to our past clicks, something that promises to be even better than the last thing we looked at. These algorithms are masters of psychological manipulation, exploiting our brain's desire for novelty. The infinite scroll feature on social media and news sites ensures there is no natural stopping point, creating a state of continuous, low-grade searching that depletes our focus and willpower. On a neurological level, every notification, every like, and every new item in our feed triggers a small release of dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. Tech companies have engineered a variable reward schedule, much like a slot machine, that keeps us hooked and scrolling, always hoping the next click will bring a bigger reward. This creates a cycle of addiction that makes intentional, conscious choice nearly impossible. It constantly whispers, "There's always something more. something better, just one more click away. The second engine is the culture of comparison. Social media platforms are not neutral windows into other people's lives. They are highly curated highlight reels. We are constantly exposed to the peak moments of everyone else's existence: the promotion, the engagement, the exotic vacation. Psychologists call this context collapse, where we see the best of hundreds of different lives all collapsed into a single, overwhelming feed. This creates a distorted view of reality, where it seems like everyone else is living a more exciting, successful, and happier life. This constant comparison dramatically inflates our expectations for our own lives and fuels a powerful fear of missing out, FOMO. We don't just want a good life. We want a life that looks good online, a life that can compete in the digital arena of curated perfection. This pressure is immense because we are comparing our own messy, behind-the-scenes reality, with all its doubts, failures, and boring moments, with everyone else's perfectly edited final cut. This leads to the third, and perhaps most powerful engine: the tyranny of the personal brand. In a world where everyone has a platform, and where the labor market is increasingly precarious, we are all implicitly encouraged to think of ourselves as a brand. This is deeply connected to the rise of hustle culture, where every moment must be optimized for productivity and self-promotion. We are told to find our niche, to tell our story, to market ourselves. Our careers, our hobbies, our relationships, even our thoughts become content to be optimized for public consumption. The pressure mounts to have a side hustle, to be constantly networking, to build a portfolio of skills that looks impressive on LinkedIn. The gig economy, while offering flexibility, also reinforces this by turning individuals into independent contractors who must constantly market their services. This turns the profound, messy, and private journey of self-discovery into a public-facing project. The pressure is no longer just to be a good person, but to perform as a good brand. This is exhausting because it forces us to constantly make choices based not on our internal values, but on how those choices will be perceived by an external audience. These three engines, the digital supermarket, the culture of comparison, and the tyranny of the personal brand, work together to create the perfect storm of choice anxiety. They promise us the freedom to be anyone, but they trap us in the pressure to be someone impressive. The architecture of the anxious mind. So we know the external forces at play, but what exactly happens inside our minds when we're faced with this deluge of choice? Barry Schwartz's work identified the core problems, which I call the 4 horsemen of decision fatigue. Let's look at each one more closely. The first horseman is paralysis. Our brains have a finite amount of processing power, a concept psychologists call cognitive load. When we overload our brains with too much information, our ability to make rational decisions plummets. This is compounded by a phenomenon called ego depletion. Like a muscle, our capacity for self-control and decision-making gets tired with overuse. Every small choice you make throughout the day, what to wear, what to eat for breakfast, which email to answer first, drains this limited resource. By the time you face a significant decision, your mental energy is already low. Overwhelmed by options and with a depleted ego, your brain defaults to the easiest path: inaction. You get stuck in analysis paralysis, not because you're indecisive, but because you're cognitively exhausted. This explains why, after a long day of making decisions at work, you are more likely to order unhealthy takeout. Your willpower to make the good choice of cooking a healthy meal is simply gone. The second horseman is opportunity cost. This is the pain of knowing that in choosing one thing, you are rejecting all other possibilities. This creates what I call ghost lives. When you decide to accept a stable corporate job, you are simultaneously haunted by the ghost life of the adventurous startup founder you could have been. The more attractive the options you reject, the more powerful these ghosts become. This is amplified by regret aversion. Our brains are wired to feel the pain of a loss more acutely than the pleasure of a gain. This aversion manifests in 2 ways: anticipated regret, where we become paralyzed by the fear of a future bad choice, and post-decisional regret, the actual feeling of disappointment after a choice is made. The fear of future regret, the fear of discovering we made the wrong choice, can be so powerful that it prevents us from making any choice at all. We would rather stay in a state of limbo than risk the potential pain of a bad decision. This leads to endless what-if scenarios that play out in our minds, draining our enjoyment of the present moment. The third horseman is escalation of expectations. The sheer availability of choice convinces us that a perfect option must exist. This taps into another psychological trap, the hedonic treadmill. The hedonic treadmill is our tendency to quickly return to a relatively stable level of happiness despite major positive or negative life events. When we get something new and better, a new phone, a new car, a new job, we get a temporary boost of happiness. But we quickly adapt. That new thing becomes our new baseline. The problem is, with infinite choice, we are constantly chasing the next happiness boost. We believe the next choice will be the one that finally makes us permanently happier. But the treadmill ensures that satisfaction is always fleeting. For example, the initial thrill of buying a new luxury car quickly fades and is replaced by the realities of high insurance premiums, expensive maintenance, and the constant worry of getting a scratch. The car that was supposed to bring lasting joy becomes just another source of stress. The abundance of choice doesn't make us happier. It just makes the treadmill spin faster. We end up needing more and more stimulation just to feel the same level of satisfaction. And this leads directly to the fourth and most insidious horseman, self-blame. When you have few options and a choice turns out badly, you can blame the circumstances. But when you have infinite options, the responsibility for the outcome feels entirely yours. This is deeply intertwined with the modern myth of meritocracy, the belief that success is purely a result of individual effort and good decisions. The flip side of this belief is that failure is a sign of personal deficiency. If you fail to choose the perfect career or the perfect partner from a sea of options, it feels like a deep personal indictment of your intelligence and competence. This can even lead to imposter syndrome, where even when we do succeed, we feel like a fraud because we are acutely aware of the other choices we could have made and fear that we simply got lucky. The freedom to choose becomes the freedom to fail, and every failure feels like a verdict on your self-worth. Echoes of ancient wisdom. This modern predicament isn't just a psychological quirk, it's a profound philosophical problem. And we are not the first humans to grapple with it. Ancient wisdom traditions offer powerful antidotes. The Stoics of ancient Rome built their entire philosophy around what they called the dichotomy of control, focusing only on what is within your power, your thoughts, your judgments, your actions, and accepting what is not, everything else. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future." This isn't a passive resignation, it's an active practice. For instance, if you have a disappointing job interview, you cannot control the hiring manager's decision. But you can control your response. You can choose to learn from the experience, to practice for the next interview, and to not let one rejection define your self-worth. Another key Stoic idea is amor fati, a love of one's fate. It's the practice of not just accepting, but embracing everything that happens in life as necessary and good, freeing you from the torment of what if. The ancient Chinese philosophy of Taoism offers the concept of Wu Wei, which translates to effortless action. It's often illustrated with the metaphor of water. Water does not struggle. It flows around obstacles, finding the path of least resistance. Yet it has the power to carve canyons. In the context of choice, Wu Wei is the wisdom of letting go of the need to control and optimize every outcome. Think of learning a new skill, like surfing. You cannot force the wave to be perfect. You must learn to feel its rhythm and move with it. Similarly, in life, sometimes the best decisions are made when we stop overanalyzing and instead tune into our intuition, allowing the right path to emerge naturally. Buddhism, at its core, teaches that suffering, dukkha, arises from craving and aversion, our desperate desire for things to be a certain way and our fear of them being another way. The path to liberation is through non-attachment. This isn't about being cold or uncaring. It's about liberating yourself from being enslaved by your outcomes. You can make a choice, give it your best effort, and then release your emotional grip on the result. A simple practice is to, after making a decision, close your eyes and visualize placing the outcome in a box, and then watching that box float away down a river. You've done your part. The rest is not in your control. This practice directly counters the anxiety of opportunity cost and the pain of self-blame. Even Western existentialism offers a path forward. While Sartre spoke of being condemned to be free, Albert Camus introduced the idea of the absurd hero in his essay The Myth of Sisyphus. Sisyphus is condemned by the gods to forever push a boulder up a hill, only to watch it roll back down. His struggle seems meaningless, but Camus argues that the moment Sisyphus acknowledges the absurdity of his task and chooses to push the boulder with passion and defiance, he finds freedom. The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart, Camus wrote. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. The lesson for us is that meaning isn't found in choosing the right hill or the perfect boulder. Meaning is found in the act of choosing to engage fully and wholeheartedly with the life we have right now, imperfections and all. The paradox in our hearts, choice and modern relationships. Perhaps nowhere is the paradox of choice more acute, more personal, and more painful than in our search for human connection. Our hearts were not designed to operate like a search engine, yet that is exactly what the modern world asks of them. From romantic love to deep friendship, the illusion of infinite options is creating a crisis of commitment and intimacy. The dating app supermarket. Let's be direct. Dating apps are the ultimate expression of the choice paradox. They have transformed the messy, organic, and often serendipitous process of meeting someone into a gamified shopping experience. Each profile is a product, complete with photos, marketing, a bio, product description, and social proof, linked Instagram. We become consumers of people, swiping left and right with the detached efficiency of an Amazon shopper clearing their cart. This has several corrosive effects. First, it creates an illusion of endless supply. The sheer volume of profiles convinces our subconscious mind that there is an infinite pool of potential partners. If this one doesn't work out, there are thousands more waiting. This devalues each individual interaction and makes it harder to invest real effort. Why bother working through a minor disagreement when a new model is just a swipe away? Second, it promotes rapid, superficial judgment. You have seconds to assess a complex human being based on a few photos and a witty one-liner. This trains us to look for red flags and reasons to disqualify people, rather than looking for points of connection. We become expert critics rather than curious explorers. Finally, it leads to objectification. When people are presented as a stack of cards to be sorted, it's easy to forget the humanity on the other side of the screen. Ghosting, disappearing without a word, becomes commonplace because the other person feels less like a real human with feelings and more like a discontinued product. The soulmate myth versus the partnership reality. This technological shift has supercharged a damaging cultural narrative, the myth of the soulmate or the one. This is the idea that there is a single, perfect person out there for us, and our life's romantic quest is to find them. If we find them, everything will be effortless and blissful. The paradox of choice feeds this myth by suggesting that with enough searching, we can find this flawless individual who ticks every single one of our boxes. The checklist grows longer and longer. They must be ambitious but also present, have a great sense of humor, be financially stable, share our hobbies, get along with our friends, be emotionally intelligent, and have a perfect smile. The reality, of course, is that healthy, long-term love is not about finding a perfect person. It is about building a partnership. It is about two imperfect people choosing, day after day, to navigate their differences, support each other's growth, and create a shared life. Relationship researchers like Dr. John Gottman have shown that the strongest relationships are built on a foundation of small, consistent actions. Turning towards your partner's bids for connection, expressing appreciation, and managing conflict constructively. Love is not a discovery, it is a construction. It is a verb, not a noun. The soulmate myth, amplified by infinite choice, sets us up for perpetual disappointment, causing us to abandon good, workable relationships because they don't feel like a fairy tale. The paralysis of commitment. The inevitable result of this environment is a deep-seated fear of commitment. This isn't just about marriage. It's about the reluctance to go all in on any relationship. The opportunity cost feels too high. Committing to one person means closing the door on all the other ghost lives with all the other potential partners in the digital supermarket. This creates a state of stable ambiguity, where relationships exist in a gray area, never fully defined, to keep options open. People hedge their bets, reluctant to delete their dating apps, hesitant to define the relationship, always maintaining a subtle distance in case someone better comes along. This isn't freedom. It's a prison of indecision that prevents the very intimacy and security we crave. This dilemma extends to friendships as well. We see curated images of other people's vibrant social lives and feel pressure to have a large, impressive squad. We collect contacts and followers, but struggle to find the time and energy to nurture the few deep friendships that truly sustain us. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar proposed that humans have a cognitive limit to the number of stable social relationships they can maintain, roughly around 150 people. Within that, our capacity for deep, intimate friendship is even smaller, perhaps only 5 to 15 people. The maximalist approach to friendship, driven by social media, encourages us to accumulate hundreds of weak ties at the expense of the vital strong ties that provide real support and connection. We suffer from social FOMO, hopping from one group to another, never fully planting roots, and in the end feeling profoundly lonely in a crowd of acquaintances. The Minimalist Toolkit, Crafting a Life of Intention. This brings us to minimalism, which I see as the modern, practical application of this ancient wisdom. Minimalism is the active, ongoing process of discerning the essential from the non-essential. It's about trading a life of frantic accumulation for a life of focused contribution. Here is a 3-phase approach to building your minimalist toolkit. Phase 1, the audit, gaining clarity. Before you can simplify, you must know what you value. This phase is about creating your personal compass. The core values inquisition. Go beyond just listing 5 values. For each value, write a full paragraph explaining what it means to you in practice. If you value creativity, does that mean painting, writing, or innovative problem solving at work? If you value community, does that mean time with family, volunteering, or nurturing your professional network? Get specific. Then, rank them. This is hard, but crucial. When 2 values conflict, which one wins? Is it adventure or security? Knowing your hierarchy helps resolve difficult trade-offs. The energy ledger. For 1 week, keep a simple ledger. On one side, list every activity, interaction, and piece of content that gave you energy. On the other, list everything that drained you. Be brutally honest. You might love your friends, but find that large group dinners drain you, while one-on-one conversations energize you. The patterns that emerge will be incredibly revealing. You might find that a prestigious part of your job is actually your biggest energy drain, while a simple hobby is your greatest source of joy. Define your enough. This is a crucial exercise. In key areas of your life, income, possessions, social commitments, try to define what enough looks like. Not the bare minimum, but the point at which more does not add more happiness. What annual income would allow you to live comfortably and save for your goals? How many close friends can you realistically nurture? Having a target for enough turns the infinite game of more into a finite, achievable one. This is about defining your own finish line in a culture that tells you there isn't one. Phase 2, the framework, designing your system. With clarity comes the ability to design systems that protect your time and energy. The decision diet. Put low-stakes decisions on autopilot. Eat the same 1 or 2 healthy breakfasts every weekday. Create a simple go-to wardrobe for work, a personal uniform. Automate your bill payments and savings. Every trivial decision you eliminate frees up cognitive bandwidth for the decisions that actually shape your life. The reversibility test, the Bezos method. Before agonizing over a decision, ask if it's a one-way door, hard to reverse, or a two-way door, easy to reverse. We waste enormous energy treating two-way doors, like trying a new hobby or changing our hair color, as if they are life-altering commitments. Learn to walk through two-way doors quickly and gather data. Save your deep analytical energy for the few, truly consequential one-way doors in your life, like getting married or changing careers. Intentional constraints. Create rules that simplify choice. For example, I will only check social media for 15 minutes after work. When buying clothes, I will only visit 2 pre-selected stores that align with my values. I will not take on any new social commitments until I finish my current big project. These aren't restrictions on your freedom. They are frameworks for your freedom. They are pre-made decisions that protect your future self from ego depletion. Phase 3, the practice, cultivating the mindset. This is the ongoing work of rewiring your brain. The gratitude lens. At the end of each day, write down one choice you made and 3 things you are grateful for about its outcome, no matter how small. Did you choose to go for a walk? Be grateful for the fresh air, the feeling of movement, the interesting bird you saw. This practice trains your brain to find value in the choices you did make, rather than dwelling on the ones you didn't. It actively combats the brain's natural negativity bias. Embrace impermanence. The Buddhist concept of impermanence is a powerful antidote to decision paralysis. Remind yourself that most choices are not forever. The career path you choose today doesn't have to be your career path in 10 years. The city you live in now isn't necessarily your final destination. Seeing life as a series of seasons or experiments rather than a single permanent state lowers the stakes and makes it easier to move forward. Celebrate the good enough. Actively practice choosing a good enough option and then celebrating it. Choose a pretty good movie on Netflix and then put your phone away and immerse yourself in it completely. Cook a decent, healthy meal instead of ordering the perfect takeout. Afterwards, consciously tell yourself, "That was good enough, and I enjoyed it." This builds the mental muscle of contentment and weakens the grip of the maximizer mindset. Becoming the architect of your choices. So far, we've focused on how to manage our internal response to choice overload. But what if we could go a step further? What if, instead of just reacting to our environment, we could consciously design it to make our desired choices easier and our undesired choices harder? This is the core idea behind choice architecture. The term was popularized by Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein in their book, Nudge. A choice architect is anyone who influences the context in which people make decisions. The way a menu is designed, the way items are placed in a supermarket, the default settings on your phone, these are all forms of choice architecture. The crucial insight is that there is no neutral design. Every design nudges you in a certain direction. The question is, who is doing the nudging, and in whose interest? Deconstructing manipulative architecture. Corporations and platforms are expert choice architects, and they almost always design for their benefit, not yours. Default options. We have a strong bias to stick with the default setting. This is why you are automatically opted into marketing emails, and why it's often difficult to cancel a free trial that automatically converts to a paid subscription. The path of least resistance is designed to cost you money or attention. The decoy effect. When you're buying popcorn at the movies, you might see a small for $3, a medium for $6.50, and a large for $7. The medium is the decoy. It seems like a terrible deal compared to the large, making the large seem like a bargain. This nudge is designed to make you spend more than you originally intended. Social proof. Bestseller labels, customer ratings, and so-and-so also bought this recommendations all leverage our tendency to follow the crowd. We assume that if others are doing it, it must be a good choice. This outsources our decision-making to an anonymous, often manipulated crowd. Becoming your own choice architect. The empowering truth is that you can use these same principles to nudge yourself toward your own goals. You can become the architect of your own life. Design your physical environment. Want to eat healthier? Don't rely on willpower alone. Make healthy food visible and easy to access, a bowl of fruit on the counter, and make junk food invisible and hard to access on a high shelf in the back of the pantry. Want to read more? Leave a book on your pillow. Want to exercise in the morning? Lay out your workout clothes the night before. You are designing your environment to make the good choice the easy choice. Design your digital environment. This is the most critical battleground. Use technology to fight technology. Use app blockers like Freedom or Cold Turkey to create distraction-free work periods. Curate your social media feeds ruthlessly. Unfollow every account that makes you feel inadequate or anxious. Change your phone's screen to grayscale to make it less appealing and neurologically stimulating. Turn off all non-essential notifications. You are creating friction for bad habits and a clear path for good ones. Design your social environment. Surround yourself with people who embody the values you want to cultivate. This is the principle of proximity is power. If you want to be more active, join a hiking club. If you want to read more, join a book club. Your social circle is a powerful choice architecture. By consciously choosing who you spend your time with, you are creating a system of mutual support and positive influence that makes it easier to stick to your intentions. By becoming a conscious choice architect, you move from a passive consumer of options to an active designer of your life. You stop letting the world dictate your choices and start building an environment where your best self can thrive. The resistance. Navigating a maximalist world. Adopting this philosophy is not a seamless process. Once you decide to live more intentionally, you will inevitably encounter resistance, both from within yourself and from the world around you. Preparing for this is key to long-term success. Internal resistance. The ghosts in your own machine. The purge guilt. As you begin to declutter, you may feel guilty about getting rid of items, especially if they were gifts or you spent a lot of money on them. This is the sunk cost fallacy at work. Acknowledge the feeling, thank the object for its service, as Marie Kondo suggests, and remind yourself that your mental peace is more valuable than a dusty object in a closet. The money is already spent. Holding on to the object won't bring it back. The FOMO flare-up. Your fear of missing out won't vanish overnight. You will see friends on a lavish vacation or buying the latest gadget, and you will feel a pang of desire. This is normal. The key is not to suppress the feeling, but to observe it without judgment. When it arises, pause and reconnect with your why. Remind yourself of what you are choosing for: more time, less debt, more peace, rather than what you are choosing against. Habit gravity. Your old habits have deep neurological pathways. Your brain will want to revert to mindless scrolling, impulse shopping, and overcommitting. Be patient and compassionate with yourself. When you slip up, don't see it as a failure. See it as data. Ask yourself, what triggered that old habit? And what system can I put in place to make it easier to stick to my new intention next time? External resistance, the pressure of the pack. Social friction. Your choices may confuse or even offend others. When you decline an invitation to a costly event, friends might feel rejected. When you stop buying extravagant gifts, family members might feel slighted. The key here is clear, kind communication. Instead of a blunt no, frame your decision around your own values. For example, I'm really focusing on saving for a big goal this year, so I'll have to sit this one out, but I'd love to catch up for coffee next week. You are not judging their choice. You are simply explaining yours. The consumerist current. You are swimming against the powerful current of a multi-trillion-dollar advertising industry that is designed to make you feel inadequate. You will be bombarded with messages telling you that you are not enough unless you buy more. Your defense here is awareness. When you see an ad, mentally deconstruct it. What feeling is it trying to sell you? Belonging, status, security. Recognize that you can cultivate these feelings internally without making a purchase. Explaining your why. People will ask why you're living differently. Have a simple, positive, and non-judgmental explanation ready. I found that having less stuff gives me more time and freedom for the things I love, like hiking and spending time with my family. This makes your choice about your own fulfillment, not a critique of their lifestyle. The true north. We've traveled a long way today, from the anxiety of the Netflix menu to the wisdom of the ancient Stoics, from the architecture of the anxious mind to the practical tools of the mind crafter. We've seen that the paradox of choice is the central challenge of our time, a byproduct of a world that promised us freedom but gave us fatigue instead. But the journey out of the paradox is not about rejecting the modern world or wishing for a simpler past. It is about reclaiming your own agency. It is a quiet revolution that begins inside your own head. True freedom is not found in the endless aisles of the supermarket of life. It's not in having more options. It is the internal clarity to know what is essential. It is the wisdom to define what is enough for you. It is the courage to choose your path and then to walk it with your whole heart, embracing its imperfect beauty. It is the freedom not to have everything, but to cherish the few things that truly matter. It is a freedom you must actively, consciously, and continuously craft for yourself. Thank you for joining me in the workshop today. This is Minecraft. Go out and build a life of intention.